Good evening, good evening, good evening. Welcome to tonight's session. We are going to be talking about no more cold calls, selling in 2020. This is a session really that's going to give you an overview of some of the things that you can be considering if you're moving away from the cold calling. Perhaps you found that the decision makers aren't at the desks, or as I discovered, a large well-known company has scrapped landlines altogether and is working off mobiles.
Yeah.
So this is what we're going to talk about tonight. We're going to share some ways that you can and tactics you can use, and these are going to be very, very practical, very simple. So whether you're salesperson, experienced, die-hard cold caller, or whether you're perhaps reluctant cold caller, will go through these tonight.
And it's not even, we say selling in 2020. It's also going to be in 2021.
Yeah.
And from now on.
Yeah. And it's, we're having to adapt our ways of selling because of all the things that have happened and all of the things that are happening. But ultimately, we have to get smarter at selling these days because it's so easy to start a business. Relatively speaking, it's so easy for somebody to enter a new market because of the way digital and the internet has democratized selling.
Yeah. And it's moved of everything from physical to digital.
So tonight's session is hosted by Oxlep. They've put this on. They're a local enterprise partnership for Oxfordshire. And they do these kind of events to really help businesses. There's no sales pitch here. There's nothing. It's literally giving you information, giving you resource to help you grow your business and be more effective in growing your business. So if you've been to this and you've joined this session, please do go find Oxlep on Facebook, on LinkedIn. Go visit their website because there's loads of other great courses and free courses and funding support, and they'll help you with grants. So if you're in Oxford, you're a business based in Oxford, they will help you with your business. And they're government-backed, EU-funded, so they're not there to sell you something or anything like that.
The other great thing is that at the end of this presentation, we have Q&A.
Yeah, so we'll do a full Q&A session. There is a form that we are going to share with you, and Vasco's going to drop the message to our team who are going to put the form link in there. We'd really appreciate it if you could give us some feedback on the session, what you've got value from, what you thought was good, what you thought was not so good, so that we can improve these sessions for you, because we really want to make sure that this is of value to you. So let's get started. And Vasco, don't forget to get the team to drop the link to the feedback form the chat. If you're watching us right now, please do comment in the chat, ask questions. Let us know where you're watching from. Really helps us interact with you as we go through tonight's session. So let me get started. So we're going to look at how to sell without harassing your prospects. We're all keen to sell, but how do we do this in a way that doesn't seem pushy, aggressive, or actually put people off? And people go, do you know what? I don't want to do business with them because they're so pushy. And the challenge of if you're not proactive enough, if you're not consistent, you lose sales. So we're gonna talk about that balance. How to stop wasting time on social media and generate leads. So we're going to go an overview of that. And if you want to look at any of the other Oxlep sessions we've done about generating leads on LinkedIn, Facebook, they're all available for you as well. So check out the channel, you'll find them there. How to find, engage, and convert your ideal customer. And how you can implement 3 simple strategies for success. So very, very low key tonight, very, very simple and straightforward. I have a general rule that any strategy you should test in its simplicity before you add complexity. Yeah. Test in simplicity before you add complexity. And if you can do that and make this work, then you can add all the clever bells and whistles. But first, start with the basics, get it working. And I tell our team here, a team of 25 people helping people grow their business, I tell them very importantly, do it, have a go, then improve it first. But you have to have a go to track it, check it, all of those things before you can.
In fact, everything that you do, you should test. Even ideally would be if you've got two that you can do and compare, and then go with the one that gets the best reaction.
So when I'm not somebody who likes cold calls, but I've been forced to do them many years ago and vowed to avoid them because they're not for me. Some people love them, but they're not for me. The first thing I did, hi Translate. I know your name, Translate, because you've been on before, but I can't remember who you are. Sorry, it's my age. I was told when I started my first sales job, get on the phone, and by the time you've made 100 calls, you'll know what to say.
Yeah.
Yeah? By the time you've made 100 calls, you'll know what to say. And you do find your feet as you go. So cold calling, digital marketing, selling online, building relationships with customers on a digital channel is no different in that sense, other than it feels less personal. But the principle is the same in that you have to do it to find your feet. And we're going to give you some. Hi, Claudia. We're going to give you some tips in how to do that and how to find your feet with it.
There's an interesting thing, which is now on this, us working on digital platforms, things have changed. We all come from a generation, and we were taught by an older generation on doing cold calling. And everyone remembers using the yellow pages, which don't exist anymore.
Oh.
The sometimes even the white pages, and then a bunch of papers scribbled on by the boss saying, call these guys.
Yeah, I can remember actually doing that with the yellow pages in the 90s and looking through the companies that were paying for advertising. And what I used to do is get the yellow pages, look for the companies that were paying for advertising, because I knew that they were people more likely to want marketing. So that's what I did.
And there was no search in those days.
No.
No Google search.
But we're showing your age now. Okay. So just I'm going to present you with a very almost contradictory slide here, in that this is no more cold calls. But then we go here, 48% of salespeople never follow up with a prospect. In other words, they make one contact and give up. 25% of salespeople make second contact and stop. 12% of salespeople only make 3 contacts and stop. Only 10% of salespeople make more than 3 contacts. 2% of sales are made on first contact. 3% of sales are made on the second contact. 5% of sales on the third contact. 10% of sales on the fourth. 80% of sales are made on the 5th to 12th contact. So here's something that's quite troubling and difficult to get your head round. By the time that you're ready to give up, that client or prospect is only just warming up.
It's true.
Yeah. By the time you're ready to give up, the prospect's only warming up. So multiple contacts helps the sales process, but if it's too aggressive, it can alienate you from the many. So if you cold called all day long, it would get you 1 or 2 leads. It would get you 1 or 2 leads. But if you then did all the follow-up that you need to for maximum conversion, you would alienate a lot of other people who are not ready yet to
But
buy.
the interesting thing is that on any of these prospects, nearly 50% are automatically put out of action, because the salesperson just alienates himself from it.
Yeah.
So you have to 50% to work with.
And let's be honest, how organized are you as a business in following up and documenting where you are with your prospects? Because despite us having lots of CRMs, and I was a bit naughty. I was on a webinar with a lot of CRM companies, and I was asked to go on the webinar to tell people the value of a CRM. And I inadvertently said, because I sometimes do this, I said, let's be honest though, most salespeople don't use CRMs.
It's true. Probably a spreadsheet sometimes.
So it has to be very simple, but it has to be a system that you can follow up and know where you're up to so nobody gets left behind. And the reason I say this is, I have got another slide I want to share with you about this, but maybe I've got it in the wrong order. The reason I want to talk about this particularly is because, and I'll just move my slides around. This is how, generally speaking, the sales landscape is. This is generally how people buy. Let's say you've got a list of 100 people in your pipeline or your target list of who you want to do business. Hi Arjun, hi Senzil, hi Mrs. J, hi everybody. So let's say you've got 100 people in your list of people you want to do business with. 30% are not interested. 30% don't have a need. 30% are not ready to act.
So that's 90% gone.
So 90% of the people are not where you are right now. So when you think about a salesperson, what they're doing is they're looking for the needle in the haystack. Yeah? They're cold calling, and their psychology is a good cold is not looking for the no's, it's looking for the one yes. They're looking for the needle in the haystack. So they're looking for the 3%, the 3 people who are potentially interested. And there you go, you've got 90% who are not in a position to buy, not interested to buy, don't need to buy. 7% who would like to buy or maybe thinking about buying. And 3% who are seriously wanting to buy. Yeah? So sales and cold calling is really about finding a needle in a haystack.
And these 3%, they are active buyers. They're not shoppers.
Yes.
These are really buyers.
Yeah.
Because on the 30%, on the lower 90%, those are shoppers. And those 7% are probably also shoppers.
So what happens in a sales cycle is all the energy of the salespeople gets focused on this 3%. And all the follow-up, the development, the ongoing work to nurture doesn't happen with the other 90, let's say the 90%. Some will be looking after the 7%, but the 90%, they just go after the 3. Now, the problem is that people change, businesses change, attitudes change, decisions change, as we all know. And this 90% that have been effectively dismissed actually turn and change over time to either the 7% or the 3%. And so what happens is, and I have a saying for this, is if you talk to the whole market, the active buyers, if you have a real sharp strategy, will find you. So you can use cold calling to hunt out or hunt down the 3% and try and just work on them. But it's a lot of effort, a huge amount of effort, that is basically is wasted if you don't follow up or do something to keep them in your space, in your world, so that ultimately they could become potential customers.
So what most salespeople do is they alienate everybody except the 3%.
Yeah, it's a process of elimination rather than a process of inclusion. So let's have a look at this in another slide. So I'll come to this in a minute, but what I'm effectively saying is, if you look at, and James is on, and James used to work for a big agency, runs his own business consulting with companies, but the reason why companies focus a lot on brand is because what you really want for your business is to be synonymous with a particular problem or a particular sector or industry. Like, for an example, Hoover, has become a name of of an activity because of a brand.
It's synonymous now.
They're the same thing. Oh, I'm going to hoover the carpet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Posh people would say I'm going to vacuum, but you see what I'm saying. So a lot of businesses invest heavily in getting their name known with the whole market, including the people who might not necessarily drink Coca-Cola or what have you, because they want the brand to be known, and when they want to drink, they consider it. Now, what happens with selling, that's where we call the marketing side of it. With selling, we focus on the people ready to buy. But if you do a hybrid approach of sales and marketing together, what happens is you talk to the whole market, get your name known, and help the 3% of active buyers come and find you. Now you go, oh, that's a lot of effort. Well, if you're cold calling, you're losing all that effort anyway, because you're paying somebody, or you're doing it, exchanging your time, dialing numbers to talk to people, 100 people, and only 3 will actually convert. So that's what you need to be thinking about. Whether you do it one way or the other, you are going to spend the time trying to introduce your product or service to the market, of which 90%, optimistically, 90% will not pay any attention to. So wouldn't it make more sense to do that awareness more broadly, get more people to know you, and deal with the people who are interested? So we have a nickname for this, which comes from a book called The Curve by Nicholas Lovell, but it is effectively, instead of trying to find the 1 in a million, talk to the million and the 1 will find you. So in this scenario, instead of dialing 100 numbers to find 3, why don't you talk to 100 and let the 3 find you? Just spin it round, and I'll show you how that works in a second. But in order to do that, you really have to shift the way you think about your business and about the companies and the way you're selling. So what are you really selling? Yeah, whether you're selling a service or a product, whatever it is, you are helping a customer go from where they are now to where they want to be. If you sell a gadget, that gadget does something that gets the client or your customer to something. Whether you're selling a service, it helps a client achieve something. So what a lot of people do is they focus on the benefits, the features of what their product does. And in their selling, they ring people up and say, hey, do you need a website? Or hey, do you need this? Or do you need that? Or do you need the other? But what the customer wants is a route or a way to get somewhere. So for an example, many businesses right now will be thinking, how do I keep running successfully during COVID? So they will be looking for answers to that. Many businesses will be looking at how they reduce their costs. So they'll be looking for answers to that. So speak to the gap in their journey, where they're trying to get to, what they're trying to achieve, rather than try and talk about the bells and whistles of what you can do. So you talk about the problems and challenges they face and the outcomes and solutions you can help them achieve, not the steps in the process, the 24/7 support, the dedicated account managers, the 4-star ratings. It's about the problem that you can solve for the customer. Now, most people go, well, I don't solve problems really. Every business, every product solves a problem. And if you look at your own habits, and I won't name names of anybody because I don't know who you are, but if you look at your own habits, pain, discomfort usually forces you to take action. And, without being insensitive, if we look at what's happened over the last 6 months, it's 9 months, is it now? 9 months.
Yeah.
The COVID virus, the coronavirus, has forced businesses way out of their comfort zones, The people who were doing all right and maybe were a bit more complacent have had to up their game. They've had to rethink about things. They've had to draw up new plans. They've had to adapt. Some people who did not want to do anything digital, they still stuck with their Rolodex, have had to force to go digital. Why is that? Because often, as much as we shouldn't do this, it's actually the pain and discomfort that forces us to do things differently. It's pain and discomfort that forces us to take action. It's very easy to chill out and not bother with things when when there's no pressure. And
I think 80% of the companies I've been talking to in the last couple of months, they all were speaking internally about moving to digital. Everyone had a plan.
Yeah.
No one was actioning anything. All of a sudden, everyone had to move. Everyone had to make a very big decision. And the problem was that the way you spoke to your prospects in the physical world is completely different to the way you do it on the digital world.
And let's just look back at this slide again. Yeah. If you look at the top 10%, they know they have a problem and want to fix it. Yeah. So if you have a headache, yeah, you want the headache to be gone. So the solution to get rid of the headache is painkillers. Yeah. You have a pain, you get a painkiller. Yeah. Now that is the essential elements of business. Somebody has a pain, you can sell them a painkiller. Somebody has a problem, you can sell them a solution that gets them out of the problem and somewhere else. Somebody wants to grow their business, you can help them build a strategy to get to a new place. Somebody wants to save money, you'll show them how they can do it. But when you're focused on the active buyers, the 3%, your message to the market is very different. Because there you're going, hey, do you want a painkiller? Hey, do you want some paracetamol? Yeah. So if you're appealing to people who are actively looking for a solution, you just put a big sign up saying paracetamol. But if you're looking for people who've just go like they've had a headache for the first time, or they're not sure what the solution is, what are they going to do? They're looking for, do you have a sore head? Can you not concentrate because your head feels sore? Maybe your eyes are a bit funny. Maybe you can't, you can feel this discomfort. You've got a throbbing in your head. So when you're catering to the active buyers, you're actually talking to people do you want paracetamol? Do you want ibuprofen? Do you want to go to the hospital? Yeah. Do you need a doctor? Yeah. So the message is, here's our product, because they know I need something to fix it. Do you need SEO for your website? Do you need petrol for your car? These are things that are obvious, and you just go out with a direct message. But the vast majority of people are not in that space. They do not have a need. They may not even understand they have a need. They may not even see it. And we have a thing we call pods. And it's problem, outcome, decision, solution. If you want to sell, the most effective method of selling, you have a customer that has a problem and realizes they have a problem. And they also want to get somewhere, an outcome, a goal, an objective, a target. But it's not good enough just to have a problem. No, you've got a problem. You know you want to get somewhere. You have to make a decision to actively pursue a solution. Actively make a decision that we're going to change. That's one of the steps that you have to take, a decision, P-O-D. And then finally, you have to settle on a solution. In other words, how am I going to get there? What's the tool I'm going to use? What's the service? Who is that to get there? Now, when you are selling just to active buyers, all you have to focus on is getting your solution in front of the right person at the right time. When you think about a whole market approach, You want to get your message out there for the right time. So you in selling to the 3%, you're wanting to be in the right place at the right time. In other words, find the buyer. Find the buyer. The other way of looking at this is being in the right place for the right time, and that's where you talk about the problem, the outcome, and talk about this is where you are, this is where you want to be, we can help you fill that gap. It's a very different message. Very different message. So that's the gap, if you remember. So one of the ways that we teach this, particularly on digital platforms, which tonight's mainly focused about digital platforms, is what we call the one strategy. And the one strategy is built on just understanding the fact that if you have too many people, you're talking to too many people across different sectors, different challenges, they've got different objectives, like marketing managers and purchasing managers have different agendas. If you try and appeal to everybody, you will resonate with nobody. Yeah. So if you have a generic message, it will have no real impact. So the one strategy is a way to make an impact with a particular group or a particular target and get some results, and then you can expand off and develop other strategies or refocus later on. But it's a way to make an impact quickly. And it is this: one client. In other words, you can't target purchasing managers and marketing managers together. They have different objectives, different agendas, different thought processes. Just like a CEO will have a different way of thinking about things than an IT manager. They'll be very different. So you need one client, one type of client. What's the way of thinking, the way of operating, what's their primary objectives? They have to have one real strong problem that you can help them solve, one real strong problem. And then you have to develop one very clear message. So one client, one problem, one message, and one offer. Now people go, oh, I'm going to exclude people, I'm going to miss people. No, we're trying to sharpen your message so it cuts through.
What many people want to do is have the sprinkler strategy, which is let's see if it sticks somewhere.
Yeah. And if you want to go with that kind of, they call it spray and pray, but there is actually another version of that, and that's called mass brand messaging. Yeah. The problem with mass brand messaging and mass messaging like that is you have to have huge scale to do it. Now I've done it, and James knows me quite well. I've done the huge scale thing, and it does work, but you have to do it in such high numbers to make it perform with a generic message.
And you have to have a very good budget.
Very good budget.
and James knows all about that.
But if you're a small business, you can't commit that kind of resource. So the one strategy is a way to do that with a more focused, sharper message and punch through and make a cleaner, sharper sharper message. So one client, one problem, one message, one offer. So what's the one offer thing in here? Well, the one offer, whether you're a manufacturing business or whether you're a service business, it's having that key product or service you're going to put into the client so that they don't go, oh, I could do this, I could do that, I could do this, I could do that. Yes, you can have little tweaks to the product, but you have one clear thing. This is what we're offering. Here it is. And this is it. So marketing managers that need to get more web traffic, their website performance is failing, problem. So message, is your website traffic falling? Are you getting less conversions on your website? Is your e-commerce falling off a cliff? One key message. And we have a web traffic enhancement service that will boost your web traffic by 20%. That would be a very, very simplistic version of the one strategy at play. So if you follow this, it will help you sharpen up and be able to cut through what is a very set, whether you're in manufacturing, whether you're in a service sector, whether you're in technology, whether you're in old-fashioned stuff. It doesn't matter where you are. You have to have a very clear message so that people understand who you're talking to, the problem. They can see if they have that problem. They understand what you're saying, and they understand what you're offering.
And this is interesting because what you need with this strategy is an entry point. The moment you get the entry point into a sales, then you can go into a broader sense of selling, which is the cross-selling and the upselling.
Yeah.
You need the entry point, and you only get an entry point doing the one strategy.
Yeah. So you can find that there's lots of companies and they have brochures about brochures about brochures about brochures. And of course, when you're approaching a client, you can sell everything. And so you end up with this paradox of choice, and the client has a paradox of choice of going, well, that's all good, but you're giving me either too much information or so much information. I need to think about it more. So it's a very great way. And as Vasco said, build a relationship with one client, get one service in or one product in, and then as you get to know them, it's much easier to upsell them than trying to sell them lots of stuff all at once. But sometimes our human nature gets in the way, and we end up trying to do, I'll sell everything all at once. So if you want to sell digitally, there's a couple of really key channels that we advocate using. And some of these are different, and there's not time to go in them all tonight, but please do ask questions as we go. But there's 6 main digital channels that you can use. There's more, but these are 6. So the first one is Twitter. Now, Twitter has got a bad rep the last few years, but if you want to use it, there's a lot of professional services people, a lot of business owners there, and a lot of consumers. There's no time to go into detail on these channels tonight, but it is a valid way to generate business. And maybe we'll do another session on that. Instagram, solid. And I'm talking about no advertising here. I'm talking about selling, not marketing per se. Albeit what we're talking about is maybe a hybrid, but technically it's not marketing. It's more sales than marketing.
And people have to remember, we are approaching this in the sense that selling without cold calling.
Yeah. Facebook, lots of small business owners, lots of brands, lots of consumers. But you have to, this is mainly aimed at B2B here at the moment, just because some of the GDPR issues of how you use Facebook. Maybe we'll do a session on how to grow your Facebook page and how to get more of your target clients on your Facebook page. We'll do that. LinkedIn, very, very powerful for B2B, all levels of B2B. But some people underestimate LinkedIn's power because obviously everybody, if you think about it, you can look at LinkedIn in 2 different ways. You can look at LinkedIn as it's business professionals, or you can look at it as consumers with high disposable income.
Yep.
Yeah. So think about it in that way. LinkedIn is it can be business to business, but it can also be B2C, where you know that the average user has a higher disposable income.
Well, we had an example of that with one of our clients.
Selling bathrooms.
Yep.
Yeah, luxury bathrooms on LinkedIn. YouTube, again, you can get in front of consumers, businesses and brands, and a bit more of a long game with YouTube, but it does work if you're very focused on what you're doing and very focused in terms of the message and the problems that you're talking about in videos. But you can do it, and maybe we'll do a session on YouTube as well. And then email, you can actually do everyone. So
email that everyone was saying was dead.
Email is still one of the most powerful marketing and sales channels there are. So what kind of email can you do? Well, first of all, just quick summary. You've got obviously email newsletters to your customers. Yeah. You've got prospecting emails. You can reach out to businesses that you want to talk to. But again, like with any channel you use, if you don't have a sharp message, it will be ignored. If you don't get into the customer's world, and I was sharing with a group of people last night on a live session, if you don't get into the customer's world and start to talk in the customer's way and think about things from the customer's perspective, it will be very hard to gain relevance and get their attention. So you've got to think about this in the customer's sense. And we have a form you can download. Maybe if you, maybe we'll put the link in here. Maybe message one of the team and say, can you put the link to download the ICP? It's a form that we use with customers, but we give it out freely. It's quite a hard form to fill in. And it asks you some difficult questions about who are you targeting, and effectively, why should people buy from you? And what generally happens is when people fill in this form, they put generic answers in, like, oh, our quality, our trustworthiness, our credibility. The problem is that everybody says those things. So if everybody, let's imagine your business is called Joe Blogs Limited. Yeah. Let's say that everybody suddenly decides they're all going to be called Joe Blogs Limited. How do you differentiate yourself from everybody else? If you use the same name, if you use the same words, if your marketing literature, your opening conversation, your posts on social media, your message in your email is the same, sorry, I'm going to say it, waffle as everybody else, and it doesn't really speak or resonate with the customer, you blend into the background. You're beige, yeah? You just blend into the background. So what this form does is it forces you to think about things from your customer's perspective. So generally what happens, people fill it in the first time and they get it completely wishy-washy, generic and beige. And then they go through again and go, let me think about this in more detail. And then they start to come up with really rock solid responses that really speak powerfully strong messages to their customers. But the first time around is really hard. It takes you, if you're doing it quick, you could probably do it in an hour and a half. But I've seen some people spend weeks working over it because they see how important it is. And what happens, and I'll give you an example. One of my students did this, and we helped them just tweak a few things. And they were doing a white paper download. And they went through what we've shared with you here, and you can get the form for free. There's no sale or anything. It's really easy to do, but it'll help you no end. Is once you've done this form, this particular student decided to adjust their white paper download page with the message that they put. Their opt-in rate for their white paper, same content on the white paper, but just the changes to the page where they give their email address, went from 20% to 57% because their relevance was far their relevance, their message was sharp, effectively.
By the way, there's the link there already.
Yeah. The link's there, Terry, to download it is there. It's completely free, by the way. It will really help you to really crystallize and get in your client's head. And somebody said to me, I did this, Dean, this form, and I started to use it, and my customers, one of my customers said, I think you're psychic. And when you start to understand your customers' problems better that you can solve, you start to understand their world better, which means you can communicate better, which means you can do social media better, which means you can write emails better, you can write your newsletters better. You could even, albeit I've not said this, you could even have better cold calls. But tonight is about using these. So it's really, really important you do the work on that, because it will transform your thinking about the way what you do for your customers. Yeah. And I'll give you one final example. Most businesses that provide a service or a product to a customer actually are selling money, time, aspiration, or an urgency. Yeah, that's what they're actually selling. More, save money, make more money, save time, gain time, urgency. So like, I need something now, or there's an emergency and you need something urgently, like emergency plumbers, emergency breakdown, those kind of things. A customer's been let down and needs an emergency print run or job run or something like that. Or it's an aspirational problem. So in other words, they want to get somewhere, they want to get status, or they feel that they haven't got the status that they want. Generally, every customer, B2B or B2C, fall into that money, time, urgency, stroke now, or aspiration. Money, time, urgency, aspiration. They all fall into that.
And all of those
groups
have one thing in common. They're all a pain.
Yeah. Even aspiration can be a pain. If somebody feels like they're underperforming, if somebody feels like they're not reaching their potential, or if somebody feels like, for an example, they're not being acknowledged for how their competence, or they're not being acknowledged for their ability or their results, or that is also a problem. You know, it's very, very simple, really, when you boil it down. People buy things, stuff, services to get an outcome, to get a result of some kind. They know what result they want, but many customers, many clients, many prospects are not settled yet on the route. And so what sometimes happens, when I flick back again, sorry. What sometimes happens is they don't align your route, product or service, with the result they want. Does that make sense? People have got a problem, they want a result. You have to align your service to that. So we call this the RRPP. I'll send you the link to that. It's too long to go into now, and I'm running tight on time. But the RRPP is something. It's on our website, so go hunt it out. It's a free article on there. RRPP is basically not RRP. It's basically you align. You think about the results people want, the roadblocks to getting that result they might be living with or have, and then the product or process and plan that you have to get them there. And then what you've got to do is align your process, your product, your plan to the results and roadblocks that the customer wants and is dealing with. And that's how you sell. But if you're pursuing the 3%, you will say, hey, we've got this product, we've got this service. But the vast majority of people haven't aligned their result and their roadblocks to your product or service. So they don't see how that helps them get there, or they don't understand the relevance. Sorry, I'm flicking around the slides tonight. So you really need to pick some channels, and we're going to talk about some ways and simple strategies you can use on those channels. So these are kind of universal channel strategies, so you will have to adapt them a little bit to certain channels, but they do work. So the first thing is the 4 cogs. The 4 cogs, and some of you, if you've been to any of our sessions before, you'll know we preach this from the rooftops. So the 4 cogs work on any channel whatsoever. Any channel. So content, is a great way to drive home your message, to get people to see your message and see the relevance of you. The more people see you, and there's just like those stats about follow-up on prospects and leads, there is also a stat out there that it takes somewhere between 7 and 15 times for people to see you, to hear about you, to even remember you. So again, by the time you're getting fed up, they're just getting warmed up. By the time you're getting fed up, they're just getting warmed up.
We made once a sale that took how many?
42 interactions. 42 before a sale.
And it doesn't mean the person didn't want to buy. Probably was on that lower 90%, which at the moment he wasn't interested.
Yeah. And I have a case study of a client that I've developed myself using LinkedIn that I'd been developing for 3 years. And ultimately, they weren't interested for most part because they thought they knew how to do what they were doing. And then one post that I'd done on LinkedIn and I post every day, triggered them to see that they had a problem and didn't know they had a problem and wanted to talk to me. And they talked to me, and within a few weeks they were a client, and a really good client. Yeah, not a low ball you on price, or they were a great, brilliant client. Love working with them. Yeah,
and for a very special reason, on this, the four cogs, content is the first one.
Yeah,
because it drives everything.
Yeah, it's how people see you. So content's really important. Then engagement. Engagement is not you commenting on people saying, "Hey, buy my stuff." It's actually deliberately building relationships on those channels. Whether it be your Instagram and your company profile on Instagram, whether it be your Twitter account and you're interacting on Twitter, whether it be your Facebook profile, whether it be your LinkedIn profile, engagement matters both outbound to people you want to do business with and inbound. So what do I mean by that? Well, if you're on LinkedIn and you want to do business with somebody, rather than just pitch them and connect, which is a really bad practice, by the way, it's like cold calling on social media, which has got a bad rap and is quite bad for your account on LinkedIn. Go engage with what they're doing. Go and like and comment on their posts, but meaningful about what they're doing. Build that interaction, build that kind of connection before you've connected.
In fact, we're going to talk about that in about 2 slides from this one.
Yeah. But then also, when you're writing posts and content, have a look at your posts and go, does this speak to my customer, first of all? And am I writing statements or am I creating conversations? And if you look at your posts and go, am I creating statements or conversations? And people go, why does nobody comment on my posts? Why does nobody like my posts? Because you're creating statements, not conversations. Desperado's just asked, the client who saw your one posting, did you know what he was looking for? So I knew off my ideal client form. Yeah. It wasn't written in the way I've got it for you. You've actually got the perfected version. I had the scribbled version until one of our team put it together. I knew that they had various different pains and challenges. And I knew that they had various different stages. So I accepted that pyramid where only a fraction of the people are actually looking for that answer. A fraction. So I knew that my content had to align and join up their results they want, the roadblocks they've got, and the process and the plan.
Plus, we had one strategy.
And we had one strategy. So that ideal client form actually helps you format everything to go, actually, if I just keep talking about these themes and extrapolate from these themes, I'm going to draw the people with those problems, those challenges, and they'll come to me. So that's why I did it. Yeah. So not statements, conversations. So simple things. Do you ask a question at the top of your post? Are you encouraging people? Are you sharing an opinion that you want people's thoughts on? Are you teasing in the top few lines of whatever post you're doing to get people to hook onto it and pay attention? So engagement, outbound and inbound. Connection.
And let me just go back to that. When you write your content, don't try and make the sale there and then, because you will not get it.
Yeah. So when we connect, whether it be a friend request, a follow, or a connection, do build those relationships. You need to be, Twitter, you need to be followed by them and they need to follow you to message back and forth. Instagram, you want them to be following you, to be following them, so that you can get the messages without the message request thing. LinkedIn, you need to be connected to message back and forth. So engagement is the gateway to connection. Engagement is the gateway to connection. If you engage with them and have meaningful conversations on their posts, and people who engage with you and have meaningful conversations on your posts, connect and build those relationships.
Because at the same time, you're nurturing them as well.
Yeah, but use the content as the nurturing tool. Use that content as the nurturing tool.
You see, what lots of people try to do on every single platform is going back to the old ways, which in the old days, as Dean was saying a minute ago, you just picked up the phone, talked to someone, they told you to go somewhere, you'd smile, thank you, put the phone down, and move them to the next one. There was no nurturing there.
Yeah.
It was a yes or a no. On digital form, you have to nurture your clients, you have to engage with them, you have to work for it.
Yeah. And then converting, what are you doing to get people on that journey? And there's lots of different ways to get people on the rung of a ladder to a journey to a sale. But effectively, you should be creating things that encourage people to help them identify they have a problem so you can progress the conversation. So things like white papers are brilliant for this, but often what we do is we start writing white papers that talk about the industry, not the problem. So for an example, if you were doing a white paper to gain interest with manufacturing companies, you could go the 5 top trends in manufacturing in 2020. But that doesn't tell you anything about the intent of the person downloading it or the person wanting to receive it. But how manufacturing will survive COVID would tell you a couple of things. It would tell you that the people who are downloading have some involvement in manufacturing because you've mentioned manufacturing. But you've also used a negative word there, survive, and COVID, to put some context to it. So that in theory, not all the time, because you have to be really sharp, and that's why the ideal client form's smart for this, is combining those words together helps you go, the majority of people who download this are in some way involved in manufacturing and are concerned about how they get through the next couple of months because of COVID. Now, that was just an example off the top of my head, but that's an example of what you can do. Webinars, for an example. You can do a webinar on the trends in manufacturing, and some manufacturing enthusiasts, probably not your customers, by the way, will come and join that webinar. But the powerful thing is the webinar, how to adapt your manufacturing business in a COVID, something, the COVID era or something like that, will tell you that these people are looking at how they adapt their business, their manufacturing business, during this period. So that ideal client form is literally gold dust because it will help you write posts, blogs, lead magnets, white papers, webinars, emails to present, to pitch people, email to follow up people. Everything that you need to do is, if you understand the problems and get into the client's world, all the selling becomes easier. So if you go out on social media and share these thoughts in the client's world, they're going to identify with it, engage with it, show interest in it. And in a similar way, the 100% of the market are not going to come and buy, but 3% are going to come and pay attention and really pay attention and engage with you. 7% will sit and watch, but the other 90% will also watch. And as their situation changes, some of that 90% will move into the 7 and into the 3, and some of the 7 will move into the 90. So they'll move around. So you're talking to the whole market and letting the active buyers, the buyers, come to you. And that's where you eliminate a lot of the commodity-based selling of, do you want a website? Well, if I want a website, I'll go around, look around, see who can do it me, see who can give me a good price, all of that kind of commodity-based selling. So this is where, when you get into the value you can deliver, which is aligned to the results the customer or client wants, margins and pricing, kind of the pressure comes off a little bit because you're now selling value rather than selling a commodity. And you go, oh no, we don't sell a commodity. We sell amazing websites. Well, people don't buy websites because they're amazing. They might think they're pretty and amazing and beautiful, but actually, ultimately, what people want is their website to generate them inquiries and interest and get them noticed by their customers. So anybody who's selling a website, that's what they're selling. If you're selling a gadget, you're not selling the gadget because people go, oh, wow, look at this gadget. Isn't it amazing? They want the gadget because it can do something and it can achieve something. So the 4 cogs. Oh, I need to pick up the pace here.
Yep, we got 6 minutes.
Stencil says, I'm not sure how to make conversations. Well, a statement is, here's the latest news from the BBC about manufacturing in Oxford. No conversation. Oh, here's a conversation version. Do you think manufacturing in Oxford is growing? Question. Conversations. Statement difference. The other thing is what you can do with this strategy here. I've not changed the header. Hook, incubate, and hatch is another version of this 4-cog, another way of doing it. Hook, incubate, and hatch is where you use hook content to find people with a problem. So I'll pick on manufacturers again. Let's say you're selling automation to manufacturing companies. You can put out content, questions, or use questions to provoke people to give you their feedback. So this kind of builds on the statements and conversations thing. So if I'm a manufacturer and I'm trying to sell automation to a manufacturing company, I would be looking to go, okay, how can I get my question to help me see who's interested in automation and who's not? But more than that, who's interested because they're a hobbyist and who's interested because they're curious to know how they can adapt automation. So I would be constructing questions like, for an example, now I have to think of one. I put myself in a corner here with the topic. Let me switch to something that I'm more familiar with, like coaching, for an example. So if I'm looking to sell my marketing services and my training to coaches, I might ask the question, has COVID impacted your coaching business? And what's your plan to recover? That's one way. Or I could go, has your pricing for your coaching business come under pressure because of COVID? Because lots of people, might not think, well, you're doing it remotely, it doesn't cost the same. So if people say no, their pricing hasn't come under pressure, what can I infer from that? If they say no, they're saying they're charging the same rates and they're probably getting similar money because they're not saying anything about discounting. They haven't discounted, so they must be busy enough to be able to not discount or not adjust their pricing. If they say we have, they've probably adapted to a pricing pressure or a perceived pricing pressure. So that's how the hook works. You ask a question that not only identifies people with the problem, but identifies people with the intent to change the problem. So that's hook questions. Maybe we can do some more in the questions and answers. I'll just run through these sessions because I want to give some time for questions. Incubate. So you'd ask people questions and then you would incubate those people who've indicated to you that they have that problem that you can help them fix. And then use what I call PODS content, which is, remember PODS, problem, outcome, decision, solution content, to engage them and to interest them. And I'd be using what we call strategic engagement, in other words, deliberately engaging with what they're doing to keep you in their world. And then the hatch process is to start a conversation or maybe use a lead magnet or white paper to develop that further. So perhaps you do a lead magnet, message them and say, drop them a line and say, we've got this new white paper about how coaches can increase their prices despite COVID. And I'm just making these examples up for you right now. So if they download it, then you can follow up message. I just spotted you downloaded it. How did you find it? Are you interested in increasing your prices despite the COVID situation? Because, and do that. Hook, incubate, and hatch. Very, very simple strategy. Hook, incubate, and hatch.
James is just asking realistically, how many prospects can one person incubate per month on LinkedIn?
Honestly, James, I would say up to 150. Up to 150, because you need, if we talk about 3% and you get 100, you might pick the wrong 100. So 150 is a decent number that, one, you can humanly manage, and two, you can, you've got a good sample to be working with. We've actually, James, if you've been on our training, we've just updated it because LinkedIn Sales Navigator's changed. So we have an expanded program called Social Selling Accelerator, James. So have a look at that. So that's hook, incubate, and hatch. Very, very simple strategy. And remember what I said at the beginning here. You can get really complicated really quickly. And what you want to do is test it in simplicity before you add complexity. Because then if you know it works, and some people, you may have tried advertising, paid advertising. One of the places where people go adrift with paid advertising is they can't find the variable that isn't working. So they're spending money on ads, people are clicking, or people are seeing it, or people are not clicking but they're spending money, and there's all the technical setup of the ad, there's a variable, but there's also, have you targeted the right people, have you used the right creative, have you used the right copy, have you right call to action? There's so many variables, it's quite difficult to diagnose where it's going wrong. So I always encourage people, if you're doing any form of advertising, is to test it in organic first. Because if it works organically, even at a small scale, you'll be able to take it to paid. And you will know what works and what doesn't. So I do this often. I will create a lead magnet, a white paper download, and I will test it organically and see how it works, get maybe 100, 150 people through it, see how it stacks up with the conversion of how many people have looked at the page and how many people have actually downloaded. And then when I know the numbers work and I'm hitting the right spot and I see the people that have downloaded it so I can learn who they are, done the organic bit, right now I go for the actual full-blown paid advertising version because I've eliminated as many variables as I can. So this is the 7 steps, which is the update to our Sales Navigator training because we've changed it because of some changes in LinkedIn. The 7 steps are just a very simple process that kind of incorporate the cogs and hook, incubate, and hatch. So let's assume you're posting content that's targeted to your customer. You would deliberately go and like and comment, friend request them, connect their post. Like and comment, but not just comment. Comment with something meaningful. I've not changed the header again. Ask them a question about what they've posted.
It does have to do with the full cogs.
Ask them a question about what they've posted. Try and add to the conversation. Try and tag them so that they reply to you to create more interactions on their post with you. Then you can connect or friend request or follow them. Thank them for accepting or following back or connecting. And give a brief intro. No sales pitch, no big long sales pitch, because that's cold calling in digital cold calling. Just say, thanks for connecting. Really enjoyed having the chat on your post or on your feed. This is what I do. I help coaches get more clients, increase their fees during COVID or whatever your service is. Remember, people buy outcomes to problems, not gadgets and bells and whistles. I'd continue to like and comment, again meaningfully, and then my 7th step would be to maybe ask them a message, send them a message, or give them a lead magnet, ask them a question, or even just ask for a chat. Would it be worth having a conversation? I think we could help you with this. Very, very low key, but it works brilliantly because you're earning the right to talk to them in detail.
But in parallel to this, you need to post every day.
Yeah, so that they see, once they've connected at step 3/4, they can then get the opportunity of seeing your content, which again is multiple touch points, sowing that message that you can solve a problem for them. You can help manufacturers get to an automated factory or whatever it is you're doing. But that's what you're sowing all the time, so that people see it, but they see it for themselves. It's not being rammed down their throat. It's not you sending a message saying, hey, I do this. Are you interested? Hey, do you want this? And like all of that kind of classic sales. But you're talking to the 100 so that the 3% will find you. Remember the pyramid? 100 of 100 people, 3% are the active buyers. And generally speaking, all conversions, if you look at all conversions, if you looked at all your sales and marketing activity, you would probably find that your conversion rate of everything is somewhere between 1 and 3%. Everything. Cold calling, emailing, direct mail, everything. When you count all the effort and time you're putting in, it's 3%. Somewhere at the top end, 1 to 3%. Yeah. So think about that, because that's where it goes. Oh, we're at Q&A. So that was a really fast overview. And I'm sure if you contact us, we can get these slides to you. The ideal client profile form's there if you want to download it and use it. Bit of work, but it will help you no end. Most of the people who use the form say, I'd never know what to post on a daily basis, or we struggle to know what to post, so we just share links to our website or to our blog post or wishy-washy stuff. Once you've done that form, you will know what to post, because you can literally go through. So any questions? I know I've gone through a lot there, and really it's about getting your strategies right and really thinking about this here. 3% of a whole market are the active buyers. And if you're cold calling, your strategy is, I'm trying to hunt out the active buyers. And ultimately what happens is you end up ignoring or eliminating everybody else. And so what happens is eventually you dry up with work, and you go back through and find, of the 90%, how many of them are now active buyers. But if you talk to the whole market, if you talk about the problems the market has, the customers, the one strategy, one client, one problem, one message, one offer, you will find the 3% in the 100 all the time. All the time. Whether it's on LinkedIn, whether it's on email, whether it's wherever it is, you will find them. Thank you. Any other questions? Anybody want me to go through some examples of their business? Do they want to share something? And
by the way, if there are any questions that you have later on, or you need any of the links that we're putting out there, you've got our email there. It's i@maverick.co.uk.
That was hi at maverick.co.uk.
It's got an H.
And of course, just to reiterate, Oxlep has funded this session for businesses based in Oxlep. So if you're watching this, please do go and support Oxlep's pages. Go onto their website. There's an event section. They've got things on tendering, on all sorts of different training that you can get on. So if you're looking at how do I get more business during this period, there's something going on there that they can help you with. And because they're a government EU-backed organisation, they have no bias here to one thing or another. They're just going, what does our community need? What do our businesses need? And let's put it on. And we're a little element of that, because not everybody will need what we need. And some people will need help filling tenders in and how to tender and all of those things. And we've just put in the chat a link to Oxlep's event listing on Eventbrite. So there's lots of different things on there. There was 3 events for Oxlep today, 3 little different events that they were running to help businesses. So
there you go. The People Skills Business.
Sure, People Skills Business, just drop us a line. We'll happily walk you through it. Hi at maverick.co.uk. I did warn you, it is quite a complicated form. We are writing a training session at the moment, which should be up at the beginning of October, which will help you go through that. But it's really help you understand, get under the skin of the client.
It's Ursula.
Oh, hi Ursula. Yeah, no problem there. Yeah, just drop us an email and we'll do that. Any other questions? Very quiet, but I say this every week because I can't hear anything. But I judge how noisy it is by the chat, and it's a bit quiet tonight. So, Francis. Okay, so Francis, I'm gonna share a couple of different things.
That's a very good question.
So, it's a really good question. So I have some experience on this because we work with a lot of people in the property sector. It seems to become a thing recently. So, if you're looking at property developers, I'm going to throw you here and say they're all on Facebook. They're on Facebook. And the reason I say this is if you want property investor businesses, like companies, like big organizations, like commercial landlords or housing developers or people who've got like 200 properties, that kind of thing, they're on LinkedIn. But if you're looking for property investors that maybe got 5 properties, 1 property, 2 properties, that kind of thing, they're all on Facebook. And you can go into Facebook. In fact, check out one of Oxlep's trainings we did a few weeks ago.
Go on to Facebook groups.
Yeah, there's a session we did a few weeks ago for Oxlep about Facebook for business. And in that session, all we talk about is how you can find business people in groups. And there are tons of Facebook groups about property investing and property investors communities. But you can't promote, you can't cold call in those groups. And that's where you come to the hook, incubate and hatch. Go into a group, ask a question that helps people identify with the problems that you're talking about. They'll comment, engage with the people who comment, connect with them, friend request them on Facebook, and then invite them either into your group or into your website, or give them a lead magnet, something like that. Yes, of course, we'll always help. Yeah, Senzel, if you've got questions, put them on hi at Maverick. Yeah, so there's probably, I could probably, if I went onto Facebook, I could probably find you about 15,000 property investors in about 10 minutes. But on LinkedIn, I would probably find you 2,000 property development companies in about 5 minutes. So it is both. And in fact, we have a client we work with, and they're doing a LinkedIn and Facebook strategy where they're finding the independent property investors on Facebook and the more business and corporate and larger scale on LinkedIn. And it works. And it's very simple. They're doing one of Vasco's customers that we work with on a regular basis, financial advisor, has secured over £2 million worth of client funds that he's invested for them off LinkedIn just by following this simple strategy. No clever bells and whistles, no gadgets, no robots, none of that.
It's
just
all
doing
organic.
this. No adverts, nothing. Just dead simple. Any other questions? Claire, I'm glad you found this useful. It's very simple. So, in fact, in one of my presentations, I actually say it's so simple, most people ignore it because it seems too easy. But the hard bit is getting under the skin of your client.
There you are. The link to...
Yeah, the link to the Facebook training is up in the chat there, so you can go get that. I'll just have a look as well and let you know some of the events we've got with Oxlep coming up, so you could let people know. And of course, please go onto social media. If you've got value from this, please, tag Oxlep. You can tag us, Maverick, as well if you like. Please go on there. There's, for an example, the next couple of weeks for Oxlep, you've got managing cash flow, startup to SME with no money. That's the session we're running. What's next for Oxford's business community? How to sell without selling. That's one of our sessions. How to confidently and successfully drive more sales. There's tons of great sessions.
Crowdfunding. There's one
crowdfunding there
on the 14th of October.
So go to Oxlep's Eventbrite. You can find us on there as well. And if there's no more questions, I'm going to wrap up and say thank you for coming. Do go tell Oxlep if you've loved us. If you've hated us, don't tell Oxlep. No, I'm joking. No, thank you for coming. I hope it's been of value. this video will stay up, so if you want to come back, you can come back and rewatch it and stop and start. But we'll also send you the slides. Drop us a line and we'll send you the slides as well. So thank you so much for joining us. Good luck with everything that you're doing, and keep going. Simple, start simple, add complexity later, and get under the skin of your client. Really understand them, because that is the key to no more cold calls.